Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, as you're listening to and watching, hopefully, if not, just listening to my voice. Today, I have no slides. It's going to be hopefully not just a monologue, but I like to call it a dialogue with your inner self as we connect, as you listen to my voice. And if you're here, then you might be looking for a partner, or you're curious what makes and what research says about finding a loving partner. It's a very interesting topic, and it's more an art rather than science, but I'll try to combine both and share what I know based on my experience of being a psychologist, but also a relationship coach. And I became a relationship coach after many, many years of multiple different relationships in my life, which I thought were a failure, but actually then I reconsidered and I thought, that was a great experience, and it allowed me to create the best relationship and find the best partner. And yeah, why make mistakes? Sometimes they say, we wish we could learn from others, but others say it's our destiny to go through this journey. But what I believe in, if we can learn from each other collectively, we can make this journey more interesting, more conscious, more insightful, more aware. So I will refer to a couple of books, including my latest book, Enrich, a practical guide for systemic enrichment for love, abundance, fulfillment, and happiness. There's a chapter and some exercises on relationships. And there's a few videos on my YouTube channel, as well as workshops that I did about the relationships and how to find a partner. And there are a few interesting books that I will refer from other authors. So hope you have a pad, writing notepad, and a pencil or a pen, and I'm going to take notes because I'm going to share a lot. So let's start. And let's look historically at how we used to, or how we normally find partners. I call it a principle of proximity and familiarity. We normally find partners from the people who are around us. And that effect of proximity, it almost like pulls us together. We get to know each other because we're so close, and we choose from the vicinity of available partners. And has been like that historically in villages where we lived. Through the cave time, it was impossible to find somebody else. So whoever was available, if there was a bit of chemistry, but in many cultures, even without any romantic chemistry, in many cultures, love was just a dream. Marriages and partnerships were all based on economic and social benefits. So it was all about understanding and being clear where my cows are as a man, if I were a man, where somebody else's cows are. So the partnerships were all about procreation and making sure that my cows go to my children, right? So I would choose a partner who would be loyal, who would be a good procreator and a good resource for my marriage institution. Whereas love was this ephemeral sort of illusionary state, chemical state of falling in love. In many cultures, still now, love is not allowed. In many cultures, still, love is persecuted, and people are killed and put in jail if they fall in love and they have romantic relationship with somebody they feel chemistry for. Isn't that crazy? We live in the 21st century, and we still have multiple countries that have this kind of set rules. But it is what it is. So let's look into if we're in the Western world or in countries where it's possible to find the right couple, partner, romantic partner, but it could also be a partner. I mean, the way how in systemic psychology we look at the way how we were loved as children has some repercussions and some consequences in the way how we make love, but also the way how we make business, or the way we work, the way how we communicate, make relationships with other partners in our life, be it business partners or friend partners or parent partners, right? So we choose the partners who either are familiar to some parts of our family system that we know, or the opposite. Generally, this is how automatically we choose our partners, either same as our parent or the opposite, if we had very bad childhood. Now, what I invite everybody is to make a conscious choice for a partner, and there's some science for it. So, for example, Dr. Helen Fisher, in her book, Anatomy of Love, and there's another book called Why Him, Why Her, talks about compatibility. So her research was a base for Match.com and Chemistry.com dating websites. And she looked at couples that were in love, fallen out of love, heartbroken, and they put these couples into fMRI machine, the magnetic resonance machine, to look at their brain to understand, is there signs for falling in love with the right partner, that can, the love that can last long, or there's just a random illusionary state of affection or lust, or this sort of chemistry. And they found some interesting insights. So, for example, there are 4 predispositions in terms of hormones, the way how a nervous system and hormonal systems are wired. So one, let's say, type or predisposition of people who have a dopamine-led chemistry, they're called explorers. These are people who love risk, who love travel, who love new things, new people, new experiences, new events in life. They're constantly searching for that dopamine boost. So this is one type of people. Let's call them explorers. Another type, they're called builders. They have the predisposition for serotonin circuitry in their body, and builders are almost very different, not the opposite, but different to explorers. Builders are all about safety, loyalty. If you ask them what kind of friends would they like, interesting or loyal, they will always go for loyal. They are faithful, they are risk averse, they plan ahead, they're very strategic. These are great finance people, lawyers. They are great accountants. So there's a certain also almost a job description associated with these kind of qualities. And if you make a parallel, I like that Lakota tribe animal description. So, for example, explorers, these would be eagles. They would like to fly and see the big picture and think about all the new things. Whereas builders would be more like bears. Those who stay close to the ground. They operate with facts and figures, and they always look at what if, like what if this happens negative. So they're good with their strategic thinking about life. That's in general. Okay. Now, third category of people are called directors. These people, chemistry is predisposed to a hormone called testosterone. Testosterone is a masculine, very strong hormone that helps people to focus well, but also they like to dominate. They give orders to, call shots, and they're very good at operating a company. They like to be leaders, they like to be managers. These are great people who have complex tasks. They really go, like in Lakota tribe, these would be buffaloes. They just see that red light and they go for it. Okay. And then the fourth final category of this circuitry that's led by a hormone called estrogen, called negotiators, or in Lakota tribe, these would be deer. These people are harmonizers. They enjoy making sure everybody's need is met. They are fantastic in teams. They make sure that there's empathy, there's care, there's love. They cry a lot. And it doesn't matter if it's a female or a male. For example, in some couples, like, the famous one, like Bill Clinton and Hillary, for example, Hillary is the director. She has the testosterone streak. And Bill, for example, is a negotiator. He was the one who cried at his daughter's wedding. Okay, so the interesting bit about the chemistry around these four categories is that explorers best connect with explorers, because these people, they are wired to seek adventure, and together they just understand each other better. Okay, same for builders. Builders fall in love and make the best marriages, the best love unions with builders. Okay, because our values, principles, and the way how we think, right? The value system is very important, especially the top values, to be aligned. So if there's a builder and there's another builder, they understand the value and they share this commonality. Now, it's different in a case of testosterone-led directors, because these guys are best fitted with estrogen-led negotiators. And why is that? Because testosterone battle heads, or sort of like, they have conflict if there are two testosterone, two buffaloes. they start having fights and fights, and it's very hard to actually have that kind of partnership unless you have somebody who's a negotiator, and they're more mild and sort of harmonized in energy, and they submit, whereas the testosterone leads. So that kind of combination works. Now, if only we knew, right? Like, tell me about it. My first marriage, and I didn't know anything about that science. I was just at work with this guy. I thought he was a really nice guy, and I was heartbroken from my previous relationship with this guru guy, and I just wanted somebody loyal. And I thought, okay, I just need loyalty. I just need somebody faithful to me, somebody I can trust. And here he was, a typical builder with a little bit of explorer streak. And I thought, oh, he's adventurous. He just came across the world, and he's working in this company that I was working in. So I went for it, and it didn't work out. Now, it took me some time to find the right match, because I understood first who I was. I was typical explorer and negotiator. So the combination of two, the dopamine and estrogen. And who is the best match for explorer and estrogen-led negotiator? Is explorer and director. So explorer and director is my current husband. And we have this wonderful connection. It's never perfect. There's always some work, but we are bound together on that chemistry, on that value system, on that principle-led behavior, and we work together. Okay, it is a partnership. So finding a loving partner, again, love is very interesting word. What is love? How do we show love? That's the second exploration for us to discover. The way we show love, the way how we experience love, the way how we want love, the way how we want to be loved, okay, can be completely different from person to person. Gary Chapman, in his book, 5 Love Languages, it's very simple. He talks about the research he did on what kind of love we want to give and want to take, okay? So is it how you feel loved through words of appreciation? You like named dearly and said that somebody loves you and what other things that you've done very well? Or is your love language quality of time? Do you like to actually have your partner who spends time with you, and not just quantity, but quality? Yeah, that they are present with you full-heartedly. It's a very different love language to words. Or maybe it's gifts. Yeah, so that's another love language. Or maybe it's touch, for example, for kinesthetic people, they like to be touched and made love to physically. That's how they know they are loved, and that's how they want to give love to others, right? So, or maybe it's an act of service. That's a fifth love language. It's actually doing something for your partner. Now, these are very important to know about yourself, and also ask from your partner before you make them a partner, because this will always clash in the loving romantic relationship. Now, if, for example, you have different love languages, knowing about the differences is making those adjustments from the very beginning and being aware. Are you prepared to, for example, my current husband, his love language is act of service. My language is quality of time and touch. Yeah. So we negotiate in a way. So I know his love language, and I know that he wants me to do little things like put a letter in a post box. And when I forget, he feels like I'm not, pulling that, part of the string. And when he's not present, or when we don't make love, that I feel like he's not uh, loving me the way how I want. So we have the dialogue, the meaningful, purposeful dialogue around love language and the distribution of time, and focus on different activities, the way how we like to be loved. That's a very important part of being aware and conscious as we move into the loving relationships. Then, of course, as we start looking at partners, and currently there's just a breadth and depth of possibilities to find partners online, right? It's like swipe left and right, whatever, is available out there. Now, how do we make choices? And that's another paradox. And we live in a time of abundance, or too much, I would say, overwhelm of choice. And it is a very interesting conundrum, I say, because I grew up in a country that doesn't exist anymore, USSR. We had nothing, we had just, a couple of types of bread, couple of types of milk. But when I went to the US, it was the opposite. It was this amazing abundance and choice in supermarkets. And at first I was overwhelmed. My nervous system just couldn't cope with the amount of choices I had to make. Now, this is what dating industry is like now, is how do we make choices to find the right partner? Now, if you ask a relationship expert on dating, who has interviewed thousands and thousands of people to find their best match, like Helen Fisher, what do you think the top requirement is for women to find a man partner? Out of all possibilities, the number one is how tall they are. Okay, so they need to be tall enough for them in their mind. That's the tick list. It's a list. And of course, it's not just tall, it's also having a good job, or having a great sense of humor, and being financially secured, and earning more than she does, and all sorts of tick lists, right? A wish list. Now, for men, generally, when they're looking for female partners, the most common requirement is attractability, or how young a female is. And these both requirements are very evolutionary driven. They are wired in our body, in our mind, reptilian part of our mind, instinctual, because that's what we needed to survive. We need the strong, big men, and young women to procreate, and to make sure that they go through this fertility, and childbearing, and having enough energy. The big breasts would be preferred to small ones because of the milk supply. Big hips, or so all sorts of things. A ratio with the for example, the waistline. It has some biological evolutionary component. But currently, we don't need to fight lions and go out in the wild, right? And we have all sorts of medical help to make babies. We can even adopt and surrogate, and have all sorts of, cesarean. And so we don't necessarily need those qualities. And actually, when we look at the research, they are not the defining factors for finding the loving partner. The best partners are actually the ones that satisfy our top needs. So we have the need for stability and security. We have a need for variety and risk-taking. We have a need for love and connection. We have a need for significance or being respected. We have a need for growth, and we have a need for contribution. So all these needs are important and we have them, but there's certain predisposed top needs, especially number one, at any given moment in time in our life. So knowing your top need and making sure to communicate this need to the partner, because our decisions in life are driven by these needs, right? So if, for example, I'm at the state of my life where I prioritize stability, I want a safe, stable environment for my family, a house, something tangible. My love language may be gifts, or it can be, you choose out of 5. But as soon as I know my preferences, I can communicate them to my future partner and make some like a mutual contract without even signing. It's just that communication. I have an exercise in the book, for example, it's called 18 questions. This what I recommend each couple to start learning about each other instead of just dating and sleeping. Most couples, they go out and go out, have a drink, they go out, have a meal, they discuss little things, they feel attracted physically, and they sleep together. Now, that is a wrong way to start a relationship. Why? Because when there is sexual intercourse or even intimacy, there's a lot of fluids exchanged, even endorphins, and oxytocin is produced, prolactin is produced. There's a lot of hormones and chemicals that produce to bind these two together, to bodies, right? So it is much harder afterwards to say no to that partner who we've slept with. We should leave the sleeping part or the connecting intimacy part to the point where we actually have chosen the partner, and not from the tick list. We need to choose the partner first that satisfies our top need and makes us feel how we want to feel. Okay, so if you want to feel secure, we need to find that builder. If we want to feel excited and we want to have the variety in our life, and that's our top need, we need to find that explorer. If we want to have significance, if we want to have that respect, if that's a testosterone-led director, they're looking for estrogen person who would make that harmonious. They will always be there, they will always be there, right? So which love language is that? Quality of life, quality of time, right? So knowing the love languages and the top needs can be a great start for having that search engine characteristics instead of tick tick tick, tall. And they may not be that tall as a man, or they may not be as young or attractive, but we want a lasting love and partnership. And in the Gottman, for example, Institute, the Gottman study, they did some very interesting curricular research about the way how these partners communicate. There's certain art of communication and science. For example, if people bicker a lot, like small sort of diminishing each other talks, it chips away the energy, right? So we want to make sure that our partner is our best cheerleader, is our person who sees us in our light, in our best sort of performance, best element, when we do what we love and they love it. Okay, that is very, very important, because we want to be happy. We don't want just to fall in love chemically and then feel heartbroken afterwards. We want to feel loved, fall in love, feel loved, and have a long-lasting love. And by the way, these are 3 different chemicals, right? So when we fall in love, there's more dopamine is produced. And of course, explorers are the ones who fall in love the most, right? But they also fall out of love the most, because dopamine is not staying there for a very long time. You need to constantly build new things. So it's like, oh, there's a new partner. Oh, there's a new thing. Oh, there's a new project. So it's very, very hard to sustain the dopamine in that sense. When we decide and we love, we decided for, the partnership to sustain itself, there's serotonin, right? So that builders sort of hormone that is more loyal, there's more contingency in terms of long-lasting effect. And finally, of course, there's another thing about lust. So we can actually have lust and love at the same time. That's already proven. Many of us are monogamous. Many of us are on the spectrum. So there's monogamish, there's serial monogamy. We love one person at a time, or some people love many people at a time. There's polyamory. There's also many different types of relationship. And that's a third component that is very important to know your model of relationship that you would like to build. And that's, again, something to think about for yourself, for your inner self. Am I looking for one person to live all my life? So going, aging, going places and just see and wake up with that person every single day. Do I really want that? If the answer is yes, you're probably on that spectrum more towards the lifelong monogamy, like swans. So they choose partners and they stay for life. But there are many animals and many types of animals that have, and we humans also, we have different kinds of preferences where we could look at in certain cultures, for example, cultures that promote polygamy or polyandry. So polygamy is when you have one man, many women. Polyandry is when you have one woman, many men. Now, why is that even a consideration? Like evolutionary, what's the purpose of one woman having many men? I mean, one woman can get pregnant and she's pregnant for 9 months. What is the purpose of her having many men? And that was also very interesting solution. We went to Tibet with my husband, and there are women and there are Tibetan cultures that have this polyandry setup. And in Africa, for example, so if you ask these women why they choose and why is this culture built on polyandry, they would answer, well, if you have one man and he's a fisherman, you always eat fish. But if you have many men, you have a fisherman and a hunter and a jewelry maker, and and you have all these resources. So for them, it's also part of that variety of resources to create the environment for their family. And in Tibet, for example, their soil is not fertile enough to split into smaller families. So they choose to have a woman, and men would go to different places and they would hunt, or they would go and explore, and they come back to the same woman. Many brothers, for example, do that because a woman would keep the land intake, the land protected. And if she gives birth to children, their children all going to be under her protection, in a way, her motherhood sort of setup. Very different way to look at relationship. And of course, we think that monogamy is the way in the world, but actually it is not the most common type of relationship. Around the world, it's only 16% of all the societies that are monogamous. A lot more societies, for example, Muslim or Hindu societies, there are polygamous, where this harem kind of structure, where many women and one man. Anyway, so knowing what your preferences are, how would you like, if everything was possible, there was no dogma, there was no religion kind of pushing, there was no society and culture at the background, what would be your preference? And now we have LGBTQ plus community, they exploring different sensualities, sexuality, modalities. We have all sorts of variations. In one of our retreats, we had a panel with different types of models of relationship. We had monogamous partners in 25-year marriage, and we had a polyamory, let's say, unit of tribe, I don't know. They came also, and they shared pluses and minuses and pros and cons of these different kinds of models. When we think that polyamory might be an interesting model to explore, it's actually a very, very complicated model, because there's a lot of issues of trust and consent that they need to go through through and making sure that everybody's happy, or there's some primary partner, and then exploration, who they welcome and who they not welcome, all this security and safety, also sexually and psychologically. And there are all these different nuances that will be apparent, will be as consequences once we choose this model. There are many books on this topic. Just Googling that and opening that container of possibility, container for exploring what kind of model of relationship do I want, not what my family would want, not what my culture tells me what's good, but what is really best for me. So moving back to that 18 question exploration, asking the right questions from the very beginning will give us the answer. So for example, me and my current partner, we did this exercise on writing our life purpose mission statement. And then we compared and shared what is our ultimate goal for us personally, individually, but also as a partnership, as a coupleship, and as a family, and for the world. And this can be an exercise to explore your values and share. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, our mission statements were very similar. And when I did that exercise with my ex-partner, just out of curiosity before we broke up, because we tried to look at solutions and how to stay together, we realized it was so different, so different, that it was not reconcilable. So no, not even possible to reconcile, right? Not possible to combine it, you know. So that if we only had done it from the very beginning, we would have saved years. But also it is an experience, so let's not feel guilt or shame about it. All our relationships are the roadmap, the path towards ourselves, understanding who we are, and finding a love partner who we deserve. And remember, it's not about being tall or attractive. It's not any of the what the mind thinks, tick list. It's about finding the person who makes us feel in a certain way, okay, and connect through our values and principles. So as you explore your relationship, you can imagine that you don't know each other. So this could be for a new partnership, you don't know each other. Start asking different questions. Be curious about each other. Knowing each other's history creates awareness and can prevent breakups and dissatisfaction at work and at home. So answer on your own or take turns with your partner to answer the following questions, and you can jot them down. Number 1, or if you have my book, it's page 54. Given the choice of anyone in your family of origin, family that you come from, who do you feel most connected to and why? Number 2, what were your parents' relationships like? As you know, in family therapy, we have this genogram or family tree, and we explore those relationships. They make a big difference in the way how we relate to people. And knowing about parents' relationships is an important indication how this person is going to behave, because we are, in many cases, the representation of that love connection that our partner had when they were a child in their family system. Okay, so their parents is an influencing factor in the way how they will behave with us. 3, what are some significant things that happened in your family history, both positive and negative? Number 4, what were your grandparents like? Number 5, what were the spoken and unspoken rules of your parents' families when they were little? Number 6, what is your relationship with your father? Number 7, what do you value most in a friendship? Number 8, what is your most treasured memory? Number 9, what is your most terrible memory? Number 10, if you knew that you will die suddenly in a year from now, what would you change about the way you are living now and why? You see, it goes deeper, huh? The questions. 11. What roles do love and affection play in your life? Number 12. Alternate share in something you consider a positive characteristic of your partner. Share a total of 5. So what you could do is, as you don't know each other, if you're just meeting a new partner, you can just assume, you say, I see you are, or I sense, I feel you are like this, 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 this. And this, we call it a validating shower. It's a very nourishing, nurturing way to connect. Number 13, how close and warm is your family? Do you feel your childhood was happier than most people? Number 14, how do you feel about your relationship with your mother? Number 15, make 3 true we statements each. For instance, in this room, we are both feeling da da da. Number 16, complete this sentence. I wish I had someone with whom I could share. 17, tell your partner something that you have never shared with him, her about your body. Body fears, body shame, inner insecurities is so important to share with your partner. Like for me, it was almost a hidden zone. I was hiding, and once I shared something, just gave permission and lots of energy into our communication, and he really appreciated my part that I didn't like. I don't like, well, now I'm okay, but at that time I didn't like my legs because my parents, especially my father, would always mention that they're not straight and I should hide them in the trousers with, like, you know, that are not tight but like a little bit loose, and it just got inside me. So I was very much aware of my body in that sense, and I didn't like my legs. And when I shared it with my partner, he laughed it off and he said, actually, I love your legs. And that created a different kind of dialogue for us. Okay. So, and then that also has some repercussions and consequences for love making, for, you know, just connecting with the body. And yeah, it's something very important. Number 18, the final one. Share a personal problem and ask your partner's advice on how he or she might handle it. Also, ask your partner to reflect back on how you seem to be feeling about the problem you have chosen. So you can just rewind the recording of this video to have a bit of more time to write them or to explore them. As I just read them to you, these are deep questions and are very important considerations for starting a relationship. And I have some case studies as well from my clients who used this exercise, and their relationship improved. So there is very interesting way of looking at that. Anyway, so talking about finding the partner, right? So as you just heard, there is science and there's also art. So what we know is that if we choose the right category of partner from the Helen Fisher research, if it's explorer, builder, director, negotiator, they work together and negotiator with the director. That's one thing. The second is knowing your values and the communicating those values, and finding the partner who can actually be ready to satisfy, and ideally having the same top value. For us, for example, it's growth. We are growth junkies. You know, we love learning new things, going on not just vacation, but like seminars and workshops and retreats. You know, we do that all the time because this is our main need to grow, develop, learn, etc. And then the third one is knowing your love language. It's so important to communicate how you want to be loved and give love the way how your partner wants to be loved, no, not how you want to be loved. You see, this is a very interesting yin and yang communication process. And there are multiple communication tools like this 18 question communication exercise. I have plenty. I have a whole chapter on communication and polarity training, because I believe a loving partnership is based on the polarity of energy. The core, when the core is masculine for one partner, then a core for the other partner needs to be feminine, and that's a very beautiful partnership, even if the same gender. I work with many LGBTQ plus minority people from different sexual preferences, etc. But the core energy is something that needs to be looked into for this polarity, and that's a bit of an advanced level. But first comes first. Don't go with the proximity and familiarity first. Choose a partner who's the right for your predisposition hormonally, who's the right for your values, and who you are ready to satisfy their love language. Normally, it's not that important. The love language can be different, but as soon as you know, this is going to be a loving partnership long term. Okay, so this is something I wanted to share with you. I know it's been a lot of information, so please feel free to connect with me through daryahaitoglou.com website. And there's so much information on the social media channels. On YouTube, there are many videos about relationships. I wrote a blog about the future relationship, what kind of relationship, the future of marriage, etc. So there's plenty of information. I mentioned a few books. If you want to get hold of Anatomy of Love by Dr. Fisher, Why He, Why Her, or Dr. Chapman's Love Language, or Gottman's Institute, he has many. John and his wife also work as therapists, and they work with different people, and they write beautiful books on like 7 principles to help marriage, different relationship sort of hacks and tools how to make it. But that's after, once you establish the partnership with somebody. The first step is to find that partner and not look at the tick list, look at the feeling wish list as the values and the predispositions hormones. That's very, very important. Okay, well, thank you for your presence. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I look forward to reconnecting with you later.